What I'm making today is something called tempeh salad, but it's kind of like chicken salad. So I came up with this recipe because when we went plant-based in 2009, one of the things my daughter missed the most was chicken salad. And here in Montgomery, we actually have a restaurant. I'm not going to say the name of it. I think it's a chain, but all they make is chicken salad, like lots of different kinds of chicken salads. So, that's a popular thing to eat down here. I'm using a store-bought tempeh. So this is Light Life. They have several different kinds. This is their original. This one is a tempeh 3-grain. So tempeh is basically just a cultured soy. And when you look at tempeh, you can see that it is very much a whole soy product. And soy, keep in mind, I know it has a really bad reputation that is totally undeserved, but there's a big myth about soy in this country that is not deserved at all. Soy is just a bean. It is a soybean. Beans are good for you. So whole forms of soy are actually good for you and protective against cancers. So you can see the beans in here. It is very much a whole form of soy. So what we're going to start out first with is infusing this tempeh with a really good flavor. So some people find tempeh to be kind of bitter, and including me, I think it's a little bit bitter sometimes. So what we're going to do is cook it to get the bitter flavor out. So I have already made 3/4 of a cup of chicken flavored vegetable broth. It's totally vegan, but it has a chickeny flavor. So this one is better than bouillon. And I know it's high in sodium, so what you can do to cut down on the sodium is just put less than it calls for. I think it's a teaspoon to a cup of water. Just use a half a teaspoon to a cup of water and you've greatly reduced the sodium. You can also, in some better stocked grocery stores, find vegan chicken flavored broth. So you could use that too. You could also make homemade. There's a lot of great recipes online for making your own chicken flavored vegetable broth. So we're just going to cook the tempeh for about 5 to 10 minutes in that broth. And luckily, I have already made one big bowl of already cooked tempeh, so we don't have to wait for that one to cook. But I just wanted to show you that cooking it over a nice simmer for about 10 minutes until the tempeh soaks up all of that chicken flavored broth. It's going to take away the bitterness that some people find with tempeh, but it's also going to infuse it with a really nice flavor. And then you'll take it off the heat, let it cool, and come completely down to cool before you make your salad with it. And then it looks like, if you look at my recipe, like a lot of ingredients. It's really not. So if you were going to make actual chicken salad, it has basically all the same ingredients, except we're swapping tempeh for the chicken. So I'm going to make my own mayo though. So I'm going to do a cashew tofu mayo. Traditional mayonnaise, even the plant-based ones out there, have a lot of oil. So what we're replacing that oil with is cashews. And I've already soaked and drained, and sometimes when I forget to soak them, you can actually just take the cashews and boil them for about 10 minutes, and it's going to do about the same thing. So 10 minutes, let it sit aside for a while until the cashews get nice and plump and soft. And then we'll put, so it's 1/3 of a cup, and we're putting them in a high-powered blender. And then with the tofu, you could do firm tofu. You could also do extra firm if you want to. It's up to you. And we only need a half a block. So I've taken my tofu, here's the other half of the block left over, and use that to make a nice grilled tofu steak. That would be great. So set that aside, you don't need the other half. And then with the half that's left, I cut it into slabs, and I like to press and drain mine in pastry towels because it really soaks up a lot of that liquid and gets it out. And so the tofu can take on the other flavors you're putting it with. So I have the other half of the tofu block, so 7 ounces of tofu. I'm putting that in the blender. And then we're adding a teaspoon of tahini. So I found this really cool tahini. It's organic, Mighty Sesame Company, and all you have to do is shake it up and it just squirts right out the top. This is great. So it's been quite a great find. So I'm just gonna eyeball that, but about a teaspoon of tahini, looks like a teaspoon. Okay, and then we have lemon juice. So it's about 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice and 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and 2 teaspoons of white vinegar and a couple of one whole tablespoon of Dijon mustard. And in this case, I'm using Whole Foods brand organic Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon. And then we have 2 teaspoons of agave nectar. Not much, but you know, when you taste traditional mayonnaise, some brands are sweeter than others, and in the South they actually call it salad dressing, but that's the same thing as mayonnaise in other parts of the country. And then a little bit of water, 1 to 2 tablespoons. You might want to start with a tablespoon and see if you like the thickness of it. And then some onion powder, so it's about 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. Okay, and just a pinch of sea salt, and you want to use iodized sea salt. Iodine is a very essential mineral for the health of your thyroid, and it adds just a hint of flavor, and then a little bit of fresh cracked pepper, and then the one ingredient that is optional, and I want to talk about it a little bit, and I know there's going to be some questions about it, but it's called xanthan gum, which is spelled Xanthan, xanthan gum. So it's a thickener, and it's found in a lot of different foods you can find commercially. So when you buy even plant-based ice creams, like for instance an almond milk-based ice cream at Whole Foods, you're probably going to find xanthan gum in it. And it's not much, it's just 1/4 teaspoon, but what it does is help to really thicken your mayonnaise, especially as it sits in the refrigerator overnight. It will really thicken up and be kind of like that consistency that you would expect from a traditional mayonnaise. So xanthan gum is actually made it's a byproduct of sugar that is fermented with a bacteria. And so you know when you ferment things, how sometimes they have like a gel or something that floats to the top if you ferment something. It is basically like a byproduct of fermented sugar. They scrape off that gel from the fermentation process and then dehydrate it. And so it's dried into a powder, and it turns into a soluble fiber. And because it's a soluble fiber, there's actually not much bioavailable about it, and it goes right through you. So all it's used for is to thicken things, and I've done an awful lot of reading about xanthan gum because I think there's been some misinformation about it, but it is safe, FDA approved, and I'm only using 1/4 teaspoon. So it's a teeny tiny bit, and it is optional. So if you can't find it, go without it, that's fine. However, it is pretty easy to find. So Whole Foods carries it, you can find it on Amazon, and the brand I have is Bob's Red Mill. So it's a pretty mainstream brand of food sources. So xanthan gum, it's just a tiny bit. All right, so we're gonna set that aside and whirl this up really fast and make our mayo. I have to stir that up a little bit. It's very thick. Give that one more whirl. So I already have some made because this actually needs to sit in the refrigerator to thicken up overnight. So since I already have it made, we'll start with the regular salad part. So we have I've already made some, so I'm going to take that out. It's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. This is about 3 tablespoons of the Tofu-Cashew Mayo. And set that aside. We're going to mix that with some lemon juice and nutritional yeast, Dijon mustard, and a little garlic powder. And that's going to make the sauce of the salad. Fork out and mix in 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, about a half a tablespoon to a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, depending on how much you like Dijon mustard. So you could also leave out the Dijon mustard if you don't like it. That's perfectly fine. And then about a half teaspoon of garlic powder and a tablespoon of fresh squeezed lemon juice. Stir that up so we're making the sauce. So that's about 3 tablespoons of the Tofu-Cashew Mayo, 2 tablespoons Dijon, 1 tablespoon Dijon mustard, 2 tablespoons nutritional yeast, lemon juice. All right, that's the sauce. Okay, so we've made the sauce. And then in a nice big bowl, I'm gonna add the tempeh that I already cooked in the vegetable chicken broth. It's chicken flavored vegetable broth. And then half a cup of chopped fresh celery. Gives it a nice crunch. And a half a cup of chopped green onion. You could also use sweet or Vidalia onion. It's up to you. An optional ingredient would be some fresh chopped parsley or maybe some fresh chopped dill. That would be really good too. And then about 1/3 of a cup of sunflower seeds, which give it a really nice crunch. Okay, and that's all there is to it. We'll just add the sauce over the top of it. And give it a good stir. Okay. And it really looks like chicken salad too, which is kind of interesting. It tastes a lot like chicken salad. Now it's not going to taste exactly like, the chicken salad your grandma made when you were little, but it's, it's pretty close. And if you need to add a little more of the mayo to help it hold together, you can do that. You could eat it on crackers. But today what we're doing is eating it on bread as sandwiches to take on your picnic. And what I'm using today is these Osary brand of sandwich buns, multi-grain. They're totally vegan, no additives of dairy or eggs or anything in them. And then we'll take a little bit, take one of these. You could toast it if you want to. These things are really good. And they're a little bit lower in calorie. One whole bun is 180 calories, so it's not that bad. And then we'll add some of this on our sandwich. And then what I like to add on my sandwich is some lettuce. And so this is from the farmer's market, lettuce and some tomato, fresh sliced tomato from my backyard. I have a Cherokee purple tomato. And my favorite thing to add to salads would be broccoli microgreens. When you're growing broccoli, they're beyond the sprout stage. They're at about 10 to 14 days after germination, and they are tiny little broccoli plants. And we know that the healthy part of broccoli is the sulforaphane, which is a compound that helps prevent cancer. And so studies have shown that broccoli microgreens contain up to 40 times more sulforaphane than the fully mature plant. So why not? And they also don't have a really strong broccoli flavor. If you know somebody who doesn't like broccoli, try broccoli greens, microgreens, because they're really, really delicious. Okay, and that makes a beautiful sandwich. And I'm sure my husband would probably like to try that because he's standing right over here. Here we go. There you go, honey. There you go. All right, so he's going to have a sandwich. But yes, give it a try. Do give it a try. I tried this at home, as John says, and it tastes very much like the chicken salad you might remember as, before eating plant-based. It's really delicious and makes a good thing to pack in school lunches. You could also put it in a lettuce wrap, which I've done recently too. Instead of, if you don't want the bread and you're trying to really watch, how much you're eating, then wrap it up in lettuce. That's really good too.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Click at the top for videos that we have found to be very important.
Click at the bottom right to see one of our featured videos.
Please subscribe to our channel by clicking our icon at the center of the screen.
And turn on notifications so that you can get our videos when the fruits and vegetables featured in that video are in season and at their best.
See you next time.